In the name of the one for whom we wait. Amen. Jesus the teacher, Jesus the healer, Jesus the wounded. A question people discerning a call to ordination are often asked begins something like this: Jesus is known in many ways. Who among these or other understandings of the Trinity do you most identify with? It's a worthy exercise for any of us, acknowledging God's proximity to our lens on life. If the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Now, perhaps it's not surprising, but I have yet to hear someone asked the question, reference this passage and say, Jesus the thief, he's my guy. This is a tough characterization to make sense of. Jesus the cat burglar. But Jesus does liken his return to a thief in the night. So even if we're not comfortable with the idea, it's a paradox we need to consider. In the passage from Matthew today, Jesus' listeners were likened to the people in Noah's time, living their lives asleep, alienated from God. Frederick Buechner in Beyond Words wrote, "In the church, as in the ark, just about everything imaginable is aboard, the clean and the unclean both. They are piled in together helter-skelter, the predators and the prey, the wild and the tame, the sleek and the beautiful, the peacock proud. There are hawks and there are doves, some as wise as owls, some as silly as geese, some meek as lambs, other fire-breathing dragons. There are times when they all cackle and grunt and roar and sing together, and there are times when you could hear a pin drop. Most of them have no clear idea just when they're supposed to be going or where they're supposed to be heading. They don't know what they'll find when they get there. In the meanwhile, Buechner says, they sit back on their haunches and try to enjoy the ride. In the ark that is our little world, in our locked cabins or staterooms even, where we lean back, imagining that we have the ticket to what we need, if Jesus were to remove the things from our guarded possessions, what would he most not want us to hold on to? As a thief in the night, while we lie in the dark, might God want to remove the things that alienate us, to take away the patterns and practices we use to keep us blind and promote our distance, the walls and doors, so to speak, that we use knowingly or not to keep God out? Oh, sure, the locks we bolt closed promise us what we need, don't they? I'll find happiness in wealth. Click. Or it's just that next promotion, click. Or I'll feel better after some shopping, click, click. Or if only I could undo part of my life. What are the locks we fasten between ourselves and a connection to God? Can we begin to take down the ramparts we build around our egos, drawing from an assumption that we are the source of our innermost needs? In his book, New Seeds of Contemplation, Thomas Merton wrote, "In order to become myself, I must cease to be what I always thought I wanted to be. In order to find myself, I must go out of myself, because my natural efforts to make myself more real and more myself make me less real and less myself." Merton wrote that when we allow our lives to be centered on ourselves, we cut off from others and build a barrier of contrast and distinction. Many argue that our tendency to pull away and our resultant discontent is born of an old narrative glorifying bootstrap individualism. Speaking a few weeks ago at a conference on Christian meditation, the former Prime Minister of Belgium and President of the European Council warned that individualism, while having rendered necessary emancipation for many, has gone too far, and in extreme now threatens to undermine democracy and society by eliminating shared goals, shared identity. Authors Benjamin and Jenna Story write in Why We Are Restless that Americans' pursuit of contentment is insatiable and ultimately, individually and collectively, destructive. The immediate results we see: loneliness, unsettledness, more conflict with others, and alienation from the other. While interiority and ego are undoubtedly modern problems, possibly even crises, biblical treatment of them through the ages suggests that they are central to the human condition. Matthew's apocalyptic undertones awaken us to the higher orders of these conflicts and their consequences. The gospel alerts us to our default to try to live without God, and even when met by storm, flood, thief in the night, find ourselves led to press repeat and seal ourselves in tighter. You know what? Let's add a deadbolt. In response to the deep longing that follows, Matthew's gospel points us to God's participation with us. God's desire for us to free ourselves, to be awakened from the burdens of our personal confinements so we can fully receive the grace we are offered while we await God's kingdom. Jesus in this passage and the related parables says, stay awake to the things and habits that get in your way and give them up. Invest in the things that make use of your gifts and your already delivered, but sometimes blocked, invitation to life with God. We can't have it all figured out. That's not possible. So we can let go of that hubris and engage fully and live in hope with lowered barriers, because doing so will reveal all of what God offers and liberate us. Much like a thief in the night, the new church year we begin today could sneak up on us were it not for the church's own sort of signage that helps us slow down and perceive our communal approach toward Christmas. It's a wonderful season to wake up from our self-interest, our sleep, and ready ourselves for the coming of the Christ child. A time of watching and waiting, we participate in the season of Advent beautifully in community. It's an invitational stillness, and it is an opportunity for reflection and renewing our attention to God. St. Paul's letter to the Romans today points us to this. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Doing so takes trust and faith. And this ingathering Sunday, we acknowledge and bless each of us who offers time and talent toward building this loving community, and for all who pledge to Grace Cathedral. Giving to the church community and its mission is a demonstration of faith that moving from our self-concern and into what Paul Tillich called proximate concern will help us build up the world and God's kingdom. Promising to support the cathedral and its programming unlocks the doors that separate us from each other and invites the Spirit's action in our community. Having our ingathering pledges co-occur with the start of Advent knits our promises as a community to the promises God is about to deliver. Advent practices in church and at home offer many ways to mark our approach to Christmas. And one liturgical sign of the season hangs right here before us, the Advent wreath, where now the first candle shines brightly. The light draws our attention as if to say, come out from behind your protective places. Wake up. Take a look. You won't believe it. This promise is shining for you, growing, and only getting brighter. As we will be awakened shortly at the communion table, we may, without shame or fear, rejoice to behold his appearing.